this is One Sassy Zebra. Today we are going to be making shortbread cookies, and not any shortbread cookies. We are making vegan shortbread cookies that are gluten-free. You heard me right. These are egg-free, dairy-free, and gluten-free. These are delicious. Now they're a little bit crumbly because these are made with coconut flour, but I will walk you through every step of the way here. You can use almond flour, or you can use like an all-purpose gluten-free flour for this, and I will kind of walk you through the exchanges here. So what I'm using today is coconut flour, and I have the Anthony's brand. If you can't find Anthony's brand, I get this on Amazon, but you can certainly use like Bob's Red Mill here. And I use coconut flour because I'm allergic to almond flour. Now, almond flour will give a nice crispier texture, and if you can use almond flour, that is great. I prefer the texture of the almond flour, but since how I am highly allergic to almonds now, I can no longer do that. So I am using coconut flour. Now it's going to give a light coconut taste to your shortbread cookies, which I love, but it's going to be a drier cookie, so just keep that in mind, and we're going to have to adjust the moisture content. So I will let you guys know the original recipe for almond flour, or if you're going to be using like an all-purpose gluten-free flour. And then I will tell you guys if you are using a coconut flour, I'm going to have to tell you how much added water to adjust your recipe for coconut flour. So next we're going to be using a powdered sugar. Now this is not a sugar-free recipe. So if you are diabetic, go ahead and use a powdered erythritol. And if you can't find a powdered erythritol, go ahead and just add it to your blender and make it powdered. Okay, and you are going to be using salt, and I'm going to be using vanilla salt. If you can't find vanilla salt, just use regular salt. So, yeah. I love this vanilla salt. It gives a very nice, just back note to this, so I love it. It's great. I found it at my local Yolks. If you can't find Yolks in your side of the world, unfortunately, I don't know anywhere else to pick this up, but it is great. I love this vanilla sea salt. It comes in a bunch of different flavors too. They have a whole line of different sea salts. So, okay, I am also going to be using margarine instead of butter because this is dairy-free. So go ahead and use regular butter if you are not allergic to dairy, but since how this is a vegan recipe and it also has to be dairy-free, I am using a dairy-free butter. So you are going to need that, and I'm going to walk you through all the amounts as I add them in, so don't worry about that. So I am just telling you guys what you're going to need ahead of time, so do not worry. You're going to need about 2 sticks for this, and I quadrupled the recipe here, so if you don't need quite that many cookies, yeah, don't worry about having this much on hand. I'm just doing 4 different types of cookies here, so and I will get to that a little bit later, so don't worry. And so the next thing we are going to be talking about here is the different types of cookies. And I'm going to be making, like I said, 4 different types of cookies. I'm going to be making a zesty citrus shortbread cookies, an orange cranberry shortbread cookie, a cherry macadamia nut butter pecan shortbread cookies, and a tropical rum coconut mango shortbread cookies. So, all right, so we will get into the ingredients here. So for the zesty citrus shortbread cookies, we are going to be using candied lemon slices. These are delicious. You can find them at most baking sections of stores. So yeah, these are amazing. Or you can go ahead and make these yourself by sprinkling sugar on thinly sliced lemons and just baking them until they're kind of dehydrated and candied. So it's not hard. And then you are going to be using a lemon extract. And you just need to find these extracts in any supermarket, not hard. And then you're going to be needing some limes for lime zest. And I will go ahead and show you how to zest limes a little bit later in the video. And next we're going to be needing some macadamia nuts for the next part. And okay, so for the next set of cookies is going to be the orange cranberry shortbread cookies. And so we're going to be using dried cranberries and then macadamia nuts. And go ahead and chop all these ingredients fairly finely for these cookies, otherwise they break apart. And then butter pecan flavoring. It's a little bit harder to find this butter pecan extract. It's not like one of those regular extracts that you can typically find, like strawberry or lemon or lime or orange, but it's a little more unique. You might have to pick it up online, but I guarantee you, once you taste this extract, you will never go back. It is delicious. I love this extract. It is one of the extracts I use every day in baking. Just gives this awesome back note. Okay, so the next set of cookies I will be talking about is my my orange cranberry shortbread cookies. So you're going to need the orange extract and the candied orange slices. And just like the candied lemon slices, you don't have to buy these. You can just do these yourself by cutting the oranges thinly sliced, and dusting them with a generous amount of granulated sugar and baking them until they're candied and dried. So they're not hard to do. But you can pick these up at most supermarkets in the baking section. Sometimes they have it in the candied section too. So that's another place you can find them. And then you're going to need dried cranberries. And go ahead and chop those up fairly finely too. And the reason why I say you're going to need to chop those up finely is because otherwise your cookies are just going to break apart. All right, the next one is going to be your tropical rum cookies, and you're going to need your rum extract. And you're also going to need a coconut extract. The reason why I'm doing coconut and rum is because the coconut I put in here is just not enough coconut flavoring. And then I use a coconut crunch. Now, if you can't find coconut crunch because it's a local product where I live, just go ahead and use coconut flakes that you toast, and that will give enough coconut flavor in your cookies, and that will just be delicious enough. So I understand that this coconut crunch, what it is an ice cream topping. And it's really good, but most people are not going to be able to find it. And then I used dried mangoes, and I went ahead and just chopped this up very finely as well. Okay, and that is everything that I have for my cookies. Yeah, so I went ahead and chopped all the dried fruit very, very finely. And make sure your butter is softened before you went ahead and mix this. So, all right. And now I am zesting the lime. So when you're zesting the lime, make sure that you do not go past the white part. The white part is just super, super bitter. You just want to get the green part. And that goes for any citrus when you're zesting. And this is called a microplane, by the way. And you can pick up microplanes at most like Walmart or Bed Bath & Beyond. And they come in a variety of different sizes too. So you can get like a super fine zest or a thicker zest of your choosing. And sometimes even the microplane has different sizes on all-in-one, but I kind of prefer them not to do that, because when you're trying to zest, sometimes it will go from small to big all in one stroke if you're not careful. So I kind of like to, if you're going to have different sizes, you pick up one of each size if you're going to do that. So as you see, my lime is zested, and you see there is a little bit of green still left on there, but I tend not to go any further with this lime, because you run the risk of getting the white in there, and you do not want any of that bitter part on there. So like, I'm trying to do this for beginners here, so yeah, you just don't want to go any further with that. It's better to just leave it the way it is, and then don't throw that lime away. Just wrap it in a saran wrap, stick it in the fridge, and you can use that for lime juice later. So yeah, don't throw that lime out, and you'll get a good amount. So, all right, so here we go at the next part. We're going to be mixing all our dry ingredients first. Okay, so we're going to need for each cookie a cup of flour. And this goes for whether you're going to be doing coconut flour or almond flour or all-purpose flour. That does not matter. You are going to need 1 cup of flour. So that does not change. What is going to change is your moisture content. So when you're working with coconut flour, you are going to need far more moisture than any other flours. So anyways, I am doing a quadruple batch here, but I am going to tell you the amounts as if you are doing 1 batch. It just makes it easier. So you will need 1 cup of flour. You will need 3 tablespoons of softened butter, and I'm going to head and using the dairy-free margarine. And my preference is Nuco. That's what I had on hand. But you can use any of your choosing, whatever you have on hand. I know there is a lot of brands out there that is dairy-free. And make sure, like I said, the butter is softened. Otherwise, it is not easy. And when you're baking, it's always really important that this stuff is softened. And if you don't have a mixer, you don't need a KitchenAid mixer to do this. You can use a hand mixer. I just have a KitchenAid mixer. So go ahead and mix this thoroughly, and you will see it start to come together. Just make sure you scrape the sides and make sure the butter isn't clumping at the bottom or the sides. That's very important that you do this on each step. It's always important that you incorporate everything thoroughly. And that's why I go ahead and stop it periodically and just continuing to scrape everything. I just want to make sure I get it all mixed. And with coconut flour, it has kind of a mealy texture. I mean, almond flour does too, but coconut flour is much coarser. Okay, so the next thing I am adding is the salt. And you're going to need about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Now with shortbread cookies, they are a little bit on the saltier side. And so if you want a little bit more salt, especially with this flavored salt, the vanilla salt that I used, I actually went ahead and added a little bit more salt than normal, especially with the coconut flour, because you want a little bit more flavor coming through, especially when you're adding extracts and such with coconut flour. You are going to need a lot more flavor with these cookies because it seems like coconut flour, you just, needs so much more flavor to go through, because the coconut flour has its own flavor, and it just needs a lot more to soak up. Okay, and now the sugar comes in. You need 3 tablespoons of sugar, and that goes for regular sugar, and this is powdered sugar that I'm using, by the way. And so you're either going to need regular powdered sugar, or you're going to need like powdered erythritol. And you cannot use granulated sugar in this. It's just not going to work. You need a fine sugar. Now, I've never tried like a liquid stevia. I'm sure it would work, especially with the coconut flour, because you need so much more moisture in these cookies. In fact, that will be my next project, seeing as how I had to add so much more liquid. I'm pretty sure that would work a lot better, adding a liquid sugar as opposed to a powdered sugar with a coconut flour. I think I will try that next time and see if it turns out better, because I've never tried this recipe with a sugar alternative. A liquid sugar alternative, I should say. I've tried it with a powdered erythritol, and it turned out beautifully. So go ahead and mix the rest of your dry ingredients. Make sure you incorporate this all. Now, I'm not adding the extracts or the others quite yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this in 4 equal portions, because like I said, I mixed my base, or what I called the base. I quadrupled the recipe. Now, if you just want plain shortbread cookies, you are going to add half of a teaspoon of vanilla extract and stop right there. And that is going to be your base for regular shortbread cookies. And you don't have to add anything else past that. And you can stop right there. So all you need is 1 cup of flour, 3 tablespoons of softened butter, 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and half of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And that is the recipe. And all you'd have to do is preheat the oven to 350 degrees, line a baking sheet with parchment paper, and then all you'd have to do is scoop the balls of dough, and then flatten with a fork, and then bake the cookies for about 8 to 10 minutes until they start to turn brown, and then cool them on a rack, and that's it. So yeah, that's a really simple recipe. That's why I love this recipe so much. It's just very little ingredients, easy to do, and they are super delicious. So yeah, what I'm going to do here is I am going to finish splitting this into 4 equal parts. All right, so I am going to be making one of the cookies here, and just so you can get the gist, and then I will make the other 3 cookies. So I am pouring in the remainder of the ingredients, my extracts, my dried fruits, and my nuts into the bowl. So this one is the cherries, the macadamia nut, and the butter pecan shortbread. So if you're making this recipe, you're going to need about 1/4 or 1/8 of a cup of cherries, about 1/8 of a cup of macadamia nuts, half of a teaspoon of the butter pecan extract. And that's my recipe for those cookies. And if you want the recipe for the Zesty citrus shortbread cookies, I will leave the recipe down below for the remainder of the other cookies for the Zesty citrus shortbread cookies, the orange cranberry shortbread cookies, and the tropical rum and coconut mango shortbread cookies. It's all the same base, just with the added extracts and dried fruit and extracts. So it's very easy. Now, with the coconut flour, I told you had to add more liquid. Now, with the added liquid, for the cup of coconut flour, you're going to need to add 1 cup of water to this recipe. And that seemed to work out just about right. And if it's still not coming together for you, just add just a little bit of water just until the dough starts to form and it's just a scoopable texture, and you can flatten out the cookie. Or if you don't want to flatten out the cookie, you can leave it in a scoop formation too. I'm going to show you both ways to do this. And the scoopable cookie is a slightly softer cookie, where the flattened out cookie is kind of like a crispier cookie on the outside with a little softness in the middle. So I personally like it both ways, and I did it both ways for my family members so they could get different textures. So I thought it was nice. I like it both ways. It's just kind of a personal preference thing, what you guys like. So now when it comes to, and also it also depends upon how much time you have too. Now when you're flattening out these cookies, it takes a little bit more time to work with these cookies too, especially if you want to flatten it out, because sometimes it has a tendency to crumble. So you have to definitely work with these cookies a little bit more, because they like to crumble with you. And yeah, and if you're going to flatten out these cookies, you kind of have to pack it pretty hard in your hand. So as you can see, these just start to come together. That's kind of the texture you want. So in fact, at this point, I had to add just a little bit more water to this recipe because it still was just a tad too crumbly. So, and like I said, I don't remember if I said this before. I did go ahead and preheat my oven to 350 degrees. And this does take about 8 to 10 minutes. It might take a little bit longer, depending upon your elevation. Most people don't know this, but depending upon how high in altitude you are, it does take longer. And also the moisture content and the humidity. If you're at sea level and stuff, that really affects your baking as well. So as you can see, I'm patting out the cookies. So that's what I mean. It does take a little bit longer to form these cookies in your hand. But there's the flat cookie, and this will be crispy. But I went ahead and did these balls, and it's just going to be a thicker cookie, and it's going to be softer. And that's about how spaced apart you need. And I believe I made about 18 cookies with this recipe. And you just want to go ahead and lightly spray the parchment just so they don't stick. And these didn't stick at all. So it was really, really nice. And just go ahead and pop these in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes until they're nice, light, and golden brown. And they won't spread on you because there's not a lot of butter and there's no eggs. They won't puff up. So you don't have to worry about them. You can put them fairly close together and you don't have to worry about that. spreading or anything like traditional cookies. So that's a good thing. So I guess I'll go ahead and mention how much for the different cookies. So the Zesty citrus shortbread cookies, if you want to make that, I went ahead, the citrus cookies, you're going to need about 1/8 of a cup of chopped lemon and about 1/2 teaspoon of lemon extract and about 1/2 of a teaspoon of lime zest, or about 2 limes. And then the orange cranberry shortbread cookies, you're going to need about 1/8 of cranberries and about 1/2 teaspoon of orange extract, and then the tropical rum, coconut mango, the rum and the coconut extracts, both 1/2 teaspoon, and then the mango, you're going to need about 1/8 of a cup of chopped mango. Okay. Oh my gosh, here they are. These are just beautiful cookies. As you can see, I did 2 cookies that were both scooped, and you can see these did not spread. And then I did 2 cookies that were flattened. As you can see, they're nice and golden brown. So that was that one cookie I'm pointing to. That was the one cookie we made together. And then this is the nice citrus zesty lime. And the cookie we made together, that was that butter pecan macadamia cherry cookie. But look at that zesty citrus cookie. Oh gosh, that was a hit with my family. They loved that. They said it was so refreshing. Oh my gosh. Yum. Okay. And then that one is the orange cranberry cookie. And you can really smell that orange coming through. Oh my gosh. Yum. You can really see that bright cherry color. And then we got that tropical rum coconut mango. And everyone said they could just smell that rum coming through. And then they get that nice crunchy bits of coconut. Oh, yum. That is just so delicious. Now, I recommend with these cookies, because they are going to be a little bit crumbly, just be careful with handling them. And also, they pair so nicely with a glass of either like coconut milk or almond milk, or just any like dairy-free milk, because they are going to be slightly on the drier side, just like with any shortbread cookies. So, or how about some nice hot chocolate, or how about some tea? That would be really refreshing, wouldn't that? Oh, it's just making my mouth water just thinking about it. But unfortunately, I have to send these with my family. So I don't get any. I just get to look at them and photograph them and ooh and ah over them. In fact, I'm going to have to tell my mom to keep her naughty little paws off them until the holidays. So yes, hopefully I pack them and I don't get any broken ones, because these are a little bit on the delicate side. The scoopable ones aren't quite as delicate as the hand-pressed ones. But yes, they are beautiful, just oh so gorgeous, and I can't wait for my family to try these. So yes, I hope you guys like the recipe as much as I do. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave it down below and I will answer them. Well, on to the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed. One Sassy Zebra. Until the next one. Bye.